Banega Swachh India. Through this campaign, we hope to do two things. First, to create awareness about the importance of proper hygiene and sanitation in India. Second focus is going to be very simple: build toilets, make sanitation accessible.
I'm so happy that today NDTV and Dettol have joined together to put forward this cause that the Prime Minister has initiated.
What did I learn in school in those growing up years which can be utilized here? And I find that most of the answers are got from that. So it's very important that at this age, we put in this kind of culture in our youth. And yes, making it a subject as a course, as a curriculum in your studies would be very, very welcome.
To educate them about hygiene, about health, about toilet cleaning.
The most crucial change that we could make is a behavior change.
ऐसी हमारी सोच है कि हम कचरे वाले को बुलाते हैं ना, कचरे वाले आ जाओ ये साफ करो, बट एक्चुअली कचरे वाले हम होते हैं, वो सफाई वाला है।
पूरी जनता को आह्वान करना चाहता हूँ कि एनडीटीवी का ये जो इनिशिएटिव है, इसमें बढ़ चढ़कर वो हिस्सा ले, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा हम लोग पैसा कलेक्ट करें।
राह गलियां डगर, गांव नगर या शहर।
ये हम लोगों के लिए व्यक्तिगत तौर पे ये कार्य नहीं, ये देश के लिए काम है, और जो देश के लिए काम करेगा उससे हमारा देश उत्तम जगह पर पहुंचेगा। यही हमारी प्रार्थना है आपसे।
तो इस साल मैं आपसे एक छोटा सा कदम उठाने का अनुरोध करता हूं कि जहां आप रहते हैं, काम करते हैं, वहां के 10 गज के दायरे की आप सफाई करें। अगर हर भारतीय ये शपथ ले, गज दर गज, तो हम बापू के स्वच्छ भारत के स्वप्न को साकार कर पाएंगे।
हमें अगर प्रदूषण के खिलाफ लड़ाई जीतनी है, हमें अगर टूरिज्म बढ़ाना है, हमें अगर स्वास्थ्य ठीक करना है, तो उसकी एक ही चाबी है स्वच्छता।
I think we're now moving to action, right, which is really doing things on the ground, not just today. I think it's a perfect occasion to create Rashtriya Swachhta Divas, Gandhi Jayanti.
Biggest solution, I think, will be to provide them with sustainable alternatives. We can ask, how can we ask vendors to stop using plastic when citizens go there with no bags?
A number of schools all through the day have been joining us to mark Rashtriya Swachhta Divas. That's Virat Kohli, by the way.
Oh, wow.
So, it's good to see cricketers also stepping out. And, that also sends a very strong signal and a very strong message.
One of the tweets that I put out a short while ago has been retweeted by the Honorable Prime Minister of the country, and I really want to thank him with folded arms for taking note of this.
Hello and welcome to this special program, and it's such a pleasure to have with us Rakesh Kapoor, the Chief Executive Officer of RB, and one of our partners, by the way, in the entire Swach India campaign. And that really is what I wanted to start by talking to you about, because I think the task of cleaning up India is something that's been so close to our heart, close to your heart as well. And every passing day, we continue to realize just how important a challenge is it. So maybe you want to start by talking to us a little bit about that.
Yeah.
How that can
Well, first of all, fantastic to be here on the show with you, Vikram. As you know, when you have a situation where the purpose of a country connects with the purpose of a company, I think you can see something fantastic happen out of it. There is many programs announced by the new government, or not the new government anymore, from Skill India, Startup India, Digital India, Smart Cities. But the most far-reaching program, in my opinion, that the government has had, the most inspiring, the most ambitious, the most long-range program that we have in this country is Banega Swachh India, the Clean India campaign. And the reason is very simple, that this country spends 1.3% or so of its public spending on, as a percent of GDP on healthcare. which compares very unfavorably from other emerging economies like China or Brazil, that doesn't augur very well for a fast-growing population of India. We need to have healthcare available. So Swach India is actually, for me, Swasth India.
Yeah.
And therefore, this program, if it can create lasting change, would be a fantastic driver of not just healthcare in India, but economic growth in India. Now, Dettol, Harpic are brands that we have, and I think it's our duty to make sure that these brands do more than just sell products. They educate people about cleanliness, about hygiene, about sanitation, and that's why we are so excited about this program.
76 million people in India don't have access to safe water. Over 146,000 children die every year from diarrhea caused by unsafe water and poor sanitation. 37.7 million Indians are affected by waterborne diseases annually. 774 million people in India live without adequate sanitation. 50% malnutrition cases are linked to infections, including chronic diarrhea caused by a lack of safe water, sanitation and hygiene. India is home to 48 million stunted children under the age of 5, the highest in the world. When we talk about Swachh Bharat, the provision of clean drinking water is the key to maintain public hygiene and health. The practice of open defecation and contaminated drinking water leads to a host of waterborne diseases like cholera, typhoid, hepatitis, jaundice and diarrhea. Besides waterborne diseases, India faces pressing health issues with vector-borne diseases. Malaria, dengue, chikungunya, worm infections and Japanese encephalitis affect many Indians. Common risk factors are unsafe water, sanitation and hygienic practices which adversely affect health and the well-being from infancy through adulthood.
Actually, it's quite interesting that we launched the Banega Swachh India campaign almost just before the government really came out with the full Swachh, the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and it's great that they've been able to then sync together and really gain a lot of traction. So a couple of specific things about that. So we started by trying to raise money, of which a lot has been created. We started to get people to pledge their time, which again they did in a large quantities. And now we've tried to identify these 10 specific locations that can be cleaned up. And that I think is great because you need to find cases, and especially the big tourist spots for India. If we can clean them up, it'll be send a major signal.
No, absolutely. I think in any major drive, it becomes a big force for good when there is not just one stakeholder which is getting involved, i.e. the government. In this particular case, I can see the movement is gaining a huge amount of traction because it is touching not just the government, but also the public sector. So there's a huge public-private partnership taking place here, but also the common person, the common individual. And by creating, and I've seen, your program, Vikram, together with Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, creating real role models so that people can emulate that. Therefore, creating cities that can actually show what best practice looks like would be a fantastic motivation for others to actually copy and do something good from. Yeah. This is the reason why we want to see a program which creates stronger outcomes rather than only slogans. So I'm a big proponent of saying, how can we actually create outcomes that other people can say, well, this city has shown a reduction in diarrhea, this city has shown a reduction in illness, and that's what we want to actually see.
And I think that's one of the lessons that we have got in the last year or two, which has been useful, is a lot of the effort was initially going into the building of toilets, which is obviously vastly important. You need to make more and more regions free from open defecation, and it's good that a number of Indian states are doing it. But I think it's also important to spread awareness about other things in the cities itself, waste management, garbage, stuff that's lying around.
Absolutely. I think one of the big lessons that we know of is that we are in consumer goods company, as you know. Creating supply is not what gets it. It's creating the demand. So I think constructing of toilets is a good thing. But making those toilets get used up, keeping those toilets clean, making sure there's a sewage system behind it, which is creating the demand for those, is also equally important. Similarly, waste management. Waste management is not just waste collection, but waste disposal and the whole end chain of it. And I think all these efforts that are taking place, this is why RB is not working on a hygiene index, as you know, Vikram. We're working on a hygiene index so that we can measure the change we are making and make sure that as we invest more monies behind this program, that money is being spent to create the best outcomes in terms of return on investment. And I think it's great to see actually focus being shifted away from just making toilets to how those toilets are being used, how they are being cleaned, and so on and so forth, and similarly on waste.
Swachh Bharat Mission, the flagship sanitation program of the government, completed 2 years in October this year. The program aims to make India open defecation free by 2019. An ambitious goal for a country where over half the population still defecates in the open. The campaign claims to be the biggest mass mobilization in history, as making areas open defecation free is not just about construction of toilets, but changing behavior and mindsets. Lack of hygiene in open defecation causes diseases like diarrhea, typhoid, cholera and hepatitis, to name a few. A World Bank study estimates that the Indian economy loses 6.4% of its GDP only because of our poor sanitation. Critics have pointed out that the government's program is not moving at the pace required. According to data submitted in Parliament, while there was a target of constructing 2.5 million toilets by March 2016, only 1.32 million were actually constructed. Even so, 3 states in India have been declared open defecation free. Rural Kerala, Himachal Pradesh and Sikkim have all been declared open defecation free.
And I think it's also great one of the things that we have found in this season, and especially during the big cleanathon that we did, was again to find ways in which cleanliness can become into mindset of people even in the cities. So the tourist spots was one of them.
Yeah.
The other thing which we should perhaps ask people for support for is the concept of having swachhalays or really clean toilets in the major cities.
Actually, you do have a problem, and I can tell you, as you know, I live abroad and I travel to a huge number of places, and not always do you have people waiting for you next to a toilet. Access to public toilets is one of the greatest things that we need. I was looking at some data based on, let's call it a midpoint check on the Banega Swachh program. And although we have done very well in terms of constructing new toilets overall, I believe that of the, let's say, on an index of 100, I think 36 have been done in the 2 years of the program, which is not bad at all. But when it comes to public toilets, the index is 9 out of 100. So we haven't done enough, actually, where public toilets are concerned.
And that's why I think this kind of we should be talking to the Minister for Urban Development about it, because he actually had come up with the title of a Swachalay, which is really good third 3-star hotel type quality. And if you have that with a big sign, if you're driving from the airport into Delhi, if you're going visiting the Taj Mahal, if you're going into Jaipur, you see a particular sign and you say, okay, now that is going to be maintained at a certain quality.
Yeah.
It's great for the image of India, it's great for the local citizens, it's great for tourism, because when you come there, you know that within 400 yards or 500 yards, you will be able to find a high quality public toilet.
Oh, absolutely. I think basic services like this, which we take for granted in the West, don't really exist so far in this country. And I think if we want...
Of course, there are some cities in the West also which don't have very good public toilets.
Well, not the cities, thankfully, I live in, but clearly, I mean, India can do a lot more when it comes to this, because, we are opening up everywhere.
Yeah.
I think this whole idea of an open country, open for business, also means that tourism should be welcomed, where they know they have the infrastructure to actually go and see stuff without necessarily compromising on their